What's going on, folks? Thanks for hitting that download button or pressing play to check out a brand new episode of Toys and Tech of the Trade, your one-stop shop for toys, tech, and talk with some assembly required. I'm your host, Rich, and if this is the first time checking out an episode, first of all, welcome. Second, let me tell you a little bit about what we do here. Toys and Tech of the Trade is an interview series where we sit down with content creators, entrepreneurs, and just awesome folks that are on our radar and discuss the gadgets, the gear, and the tech that they use to create their content, run their business, and overall be more productive. When it comes to the toys aspect of the podcast, though, it's not just the usual talk of action figures or Funko Pops or other collectibles. You'd be surprised what people consider their toys, whether it's something as simple as collecting guitar picks or kitchen appliances or motorcycles. You'd be surprised what people consider their toys. And we love having those conversations because it gives us a better understanding of our guests on a personal level. Plus, it allows us to find commonalities that can allow us to have just a better conversation overall. And of course, everybody's toys are different, and we love to share that too because it gives us other things to check out and geek out over versus just the usual stuff. And more importantly, it breaks up the business and entrepreneurship talks that we have on this podcast. With that intro out of the way, let's get into some housekeeping and turn things over to this week's guest. So, it's one of the things that I really don't like when I do or listen to podcasts, and it's apologies, excuses, whatever the case may be. But I have to break that rule myself because I owe you folks an apology. I know that we haven't had new episodes in quite some time, but the funny thing was I actually recorded an episode that was part Q&A, part update on what was going on with the podcast, the Rageworks brand, and everything in between. And I set it to auto-publish and all of that fun stuff. And when I was prepping to release this episode, I noticed, damn, that episode did not auto-publish. So I ended up having to re-record portions of it because some of the information now is dated. And as such, you folks are probably going to be getting two episodes in very close proximity to each other. Of course, this one with this week's guest and the Q&A and update episode on what's been going on. I want to do that. Initially, I was going to scrap it entirely, but I think that there's a lot to unpack with what's been going on with Rageworks, with myself personally, and with the future of the network, the brand, and even this show. So, I owe you folks that, and I want to release that episode very, very soon. So be on the lookout for that. Last but not least, as always, I want to thank everybody who's been connecting with us on social media, whether it's following the Rageworks brand, the Rageworks podcast network on Twitter, or any of our social accounts. We try to keep people up to speed on things with the brand, things with the site, and most importantly, things with the podcast. So many thanks to all of the new people that have been following our journey and connecting with our guests and our hosts. We truly, truly appreciate it. One thing I do want to mention is that some of the social, I know that some people are, DMs and responses are sometimes a little delayed. I have actually given some of the staff access to our social. So sometimes there'll be things that are coming just directly from a generic place from Rageworks, and some stuff will be coming from me personally. If it's something where you need to reach out to me directly, email is always great, rich@rageworks.net. But on social, I try to sometimes just have a hand in the responses, but sometimes, like I said, life gets in the way. So I did want to share that in a more public forum because I know some people are like, hey, I reached out. I was hoping to reach out to you personally, et cetera, et cetera. It wasn't you, but that's something I've been doing just because trying to run Rageworks more like a business and not just as a side project. And I'll get more into that, like I said, in the update and Q&A episode. So with that bit of housekeeping out of the way, let's not drag this out any further and turn things over to this week's guest. My guest for this week's episode of Toys and Tech of the Trade is activist, artist, and entrepreneur Bobbito Ross. Now, I learned about Bobbito Ross's work from another artist who I follow on Instagram, Ralph Burrows, aka Rally Art. And Ralph does a lot of great sculpts, different types of artwork, and he was posting a piece of social media for a Comic-Con that he participated in recently. And looking at the photo, he had a really awesome shirt. It was of a Wu-Tang Clan logo, but it had Yasuke inside the W. And it was just such a cool concept, such a great mixture of something old and something new that I'm looking and I'm like, man, I hope he tagged wherever he got this shirt from because I'd love to pick it up, love to see more of this kind of artwork. Sure enough, the artist was Bobbito Ross. I click it, check out Bobbito's Instagram, go check out his website. And right away, I just felt a kinship with him just because there were a lot of similarities, both residents in Queens, New York, Puerto Rican heritage. But the thing about it was that his art and a lot of his designs were a great mixture of just things that I was a fan of, whether it was Kung Fu movies, anime, Charlie Brown. He has some stuff with the Snorks. But above all that was the great and positive reinforcement and representation of Puerto Rican culture and the different aspects of it, from activism to Puerto Rican athletes to just a lot of acknowledgement of the deep African roots within Puerto Rican culture. It really just, it got my attention. I really started just doing a deeper dive into his work. And next thing you know, one Instagram DM later, we're talking, we're chatting, and I'm like, damn, I really want to share his story with you guys, mostly because I'm a fan of what he's doing. Also, you know, we have the Puerto Rican Day Parade coming up soon here in New York. And I just wanted to use my platform to showcase a fellow Puerto Rican creator who is just out there not only creating amazing art, but really using it to enforce and keep our cultural identities alive, especially when it comes to Puerto Rican culture, which is so diverse with elements of African culture, elements of Native American culture, and so much more. This conversation touched on many different things, from race to self-identity to mourning the loss of a parent to using that loss to inspire our creativity. We touched a lot of different things. It was a departure from our usual conversations on this podcast, but it was just a conversation I felt needed to be had. And I'm really, really glad that I can share it with you guys. So without any further ado, let's turn things over to Bobbito Ross and learn more about the toys and tech of his trade. Bobbito, what's going on? Thanks for taking the time to chop it up with us.
I'm good, my brother, man. I appreciate you, man. Like I tell everybody every time I speak to them, man, as long as we both wake up and everybody wakes up, we bless and we just take it from there. You know what I'm saying? So I appreciate the opportunity to talk to the people and speak to you as well. So thank you, man.
Yeah, every day above ground is a good day.
Very true indeed, man. A lot of people take that for granted. So, you know, life is of the essence. Got to go forward, and I appreciate every moment as a gift. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. One of the first things when I was learning about your work and picking up some of the stuff that you were putting out in terms of merchandise and different apparel was obviously the Bob Ross influence, your avatar first and foremost. I grew up watching Bob Ross. He was a staple in my house as a kid, you know, PBS Channel 13 when you stayed home from school, you know, the Blues and the Brushes. And I kind of wanted to start from there and touch on your origin story. I know, you know, you're a tried and true New Yorker. Your dad is from Yauco, Puerto Rico. And, you know, you really emphasize putting a lot of Puerto Rican culture into your work. So I want to start there. First, how you got started as an artist and how much of a factor did your upbringing have in influencing so much of your artwork?
I mean, well, I started off in art. I mean, grew up in Queens, Jamaica, Queens, New York. That's where I actually grew up at. My first influences of art pretty much was, you know, cartoons. You know, back in the days, we only had like, you know, very limited TV channels. You know, we didn't have cable back then. There was no iPads. There was no YouTube. So pretty much we had channel 2, 4, 5, 7, 9, 11. So everything from cartoons back in the day, but which really gravitated my love was graffiti. I used to live right by the elevated trains in Queens that would bring a lot of artists from Brooklyn. And graffiti was pretty much the beginning process of, taking my art to that next level with the increasement of, pretty much cartoons and everything you see on TV from Tom and Jerry, to, Space Ghost, to a lot of cartoons that we grew up on every day. Cause that's pretty much, what we had as kids growing. We didn't have movies. We had movies, but not to the point where, streaming is availability now. We didn't have that back in the day. So the first love, or like the first, dimension that took me to another place, was graffiti, actually.
The thing about graffiti, especially, with 5 points and such a huge resurgence. I know so many friends that were into graph when they were younger and are back into it now, and they're filling up their black books and leaving stickers throughout most of the boroughs. The thing about it is that when you look at graffiti, especially now, it's become such a fabric of life versus back in the day when we were growing up. It was always like, it was either a really nice mural or maybe a really good roll gate at a store, but it wasn't as widely accepted as it is now. And I kind of want to touch on that, because when you were picking up graffiti growing up, did you always aspire to integrate that into your artwork, or were you trying to go out there and bomb and do that stuff? Again, not that we're encouraging it, but obviously you got to get your feet wet,
Yeah, but I mean, still connecting on your first question, my roots is pretty much, also incorporated in my artwork as well. Being, my nationality, born in New York City, but American, but my ethnicity being Boricua, and having the Africano sense of who I am and where we come from, that also interprets in my work as well. Never forgetting and losing the cultural roots of where you are, regardless of where you might be born from. You know what I'm saying? So that definitely is highly impacted of what I do and everything that I do. But, like from a young artist, for a young writer at the time growing up, like in the 80s, you just wanted this to be dope, man. You just wanted to do something that was totally different. Graffiti was an eyesore back in the days. It was never even anything to be what it is now. Same thing with hip hop, because, I grew up the time when hip hop, was in its beginning preliminary stages. Nobody ever saw it to be what it is now. Same thing with graffiti. It was pretty much having a voice where we didn't have a voice. You know what I'm saying? Be able to speak what the community is all about, but you're not seeing it on TV. So we were pretty much like the street reporters, but in a sense about Renaissance being it to interpreting into art. So it was never, I never saw it to where it is now. I never incorporated that it would introduce me to what I'm doing now with my own art as well. It was pretty much, man, something I love to do. And I'm like, wow, these guys are dope. How do I learn to do it like them? And, just have an understanding of the culture. Because graffiti always started on the trains. That's the actual canvas that it actually should be on, trains. What happened was throughout the years, you couldn't just go into the yards to paint. Security got higher. You know what I'm saying? So you had to now take it from trains to like legal walls. And to now everything is, galleries, which is dope as well. But the true essence of it is on metal trains back in the day. So like this, the enjoyment of seeing something that you can relate to of other kids from other neighborhoods doing the same thing you can do was like, because art is basically when you can start criticizing or critiquing other artists, that's what makes art art. And at a point, graffiti was never considered an art. As you can see now, it's pretty much transcended throughout the whole planet, just like hip hop has. So for me at that time, it was just like doing something that I love to do, and how are these brothers and sisters doing it? And if they can do it, why can't I do it too? So that's pretty much like how I saw it in the beginning stages. You know what I mean? It was just like, it was a world that was not from this world. You know what I mean? Because graffiti goes back to the hieroglyphics. You know what I'm saying? If you want to go that far back. So it was something that's been in the essence for a long time, but it just actually evolved throughout years and years and years. You know what I'm saying?
I think that using that and really emphasizing that aspect of graffiti is something that it's something that's real. It's not something that's in vogue. It's not something that's all of a sudden artistically viewed as favorable. It's one of the things that took a lot of work. Same thing with hip hop. I mean, much like you know, an 80s baby myself, like hip hop was it was underground, when it was blasting in the neighborhoods, especially if you were in a predominantly Puerto Rican neighborhood. Tú tienes eso puesto. You know, people get all mad, especially the old folks. They don't want to hear that. But now there's so much influence, not just in hip hop, but even in Spanish music, that hip hop influence comes in, and even a lot of the reggaeton artists crossing over and bringing that sound, the island sound, into, you know, music here in the States. It's amazing that so much of it gets so accepted, but it took a long time to look at it that way.
Yeah, because another thing also too with hip hop, a lot of it came from the island. You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of people from the island brought it here. So a lot of things people don't know about, you have to do the education, where hip hop has been farther. I mean, hip hop goes back to the, you know, drum days when we just go around circle and just talk, you know what I'm saying? So it's been in the essence of hip hop has always been there, even going back to Puerto Rico. It has been going there since the beginning of time. Yep. So a lot of things that hip hop artists do now, it's really an interpretation of what they've been doing in PR for a long time. But you won't get the education if you don't do the knowledge behind it. You get what I'm saying? So a lot of people might not know that, but the more you do research and you start speaking to people of the culture, you start seeing that it's been there for a long time already. You know what I'm saying? But it's a great thing, whereas it can communicate to so many different types of people. You know what I'm saying? Growing up, you know, with something that was not socially accepted, graffiti and hip hop at the time. But if you look at those two genres itself right now, just musically and art wise, it has impacted this whole world tremendously. Like it's something that, you know, you can't go nowhere without not hearing hip hop or seeing graffiti in any neighborhood. And, you know, it could transcend it now to street art, which that's something totally different. But it has now crossed over into that mainstream. You know what I'm saying? Now,
one of the things that I liked in looking at some of the work that you did was you emphasized the African culture that is within Puerto Rican culture. And I feel, and this is, you know, totally just based on our conversation, I've always feel that there's always been a disconnect, because I feel that there's a lot of self-hatred among our people, because what happens is, I see sometimes, you know, if you're fair skinned versus you're dark skinned but at the end of the day, the roots are the roots. And it now more than ever over the last 2 years with everything going on, I see so much of it, especially on social media, where there's a lot of that self-hatred. And one of the things I really appreciated in the work that you're putting out is that positive vibe, the appreciation of those other roots, those African roots, because I mean, you know, about 6 months ago, a little over a year ago, I did a 23andMe for my daughter, so that I can share with her where I come from. And it's exactly that. You see, like on the bottom, it'll tell you like it equals your Puerto Rican, but it's like there's African, there's Nigerian, Cameroon, you know, Spain. There's such a vast genetic makeup, but it kills me because we see so much of that, you know, amongst our own people, that disconnect with their African roots. And I really, really, really like and truly appreciate and admire the fact that you put that forward front and center, you know, with a lot of your work. I think it's something that the younger generation needs to know more of, because I feel that there's a lot of color coding, you know, they're like, you know, that person, they're not full Puerto Rican. At the end of the day, they're all from the island, you know?
I mean, you know, for me, is just knowing all your roots, man. You can't accept, you got to know where you're from. And if you don't know where you're from, how can you move forward in life if you don't know where you're from?
Yep.
And you can't forget where your ancestors came from, not even just your ancestors, where your grandparents came from, your great grandparents came from, because without them being who they are, you know, I won't be where I'm at right now. So I have to acknowledge them from the very beginning to where I'm at this moment. You know what I'm saying? So like, a lot of people are quick to identify with the Spaniard part, you know what I mean, with the indigenous part. Then, you know, from something about crossing the water, you lose the African part of who you are as people.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, so you're quick to, you know, it's another form of not accepting who you are. And you can't really accept yourself and your people if you don't actually accept everything of who you are. There's no understanding. And most of that understanding goes with knowledge of self and knowing who you are, where you come from. It's an individual thing. And, you know, a lot of, of course, there's a lot of it self-hatred, because when you're living in a country, you know, you're indoctrinated by these American ways. And if you don't wake up from it, eventually you're going to lose yourself. And I always tell people, and I have a shirt actually on the website, shameful plug, www.bobbitoross.com. Whereas it says, Puerto Ricans could be the endangered species.
Yep.
Because if we don't actually recognize the history, is his story of what they're trying to do, we're basically going to lose ourselves, right? You know what I mean? So like even myself, to know the people, you have to know the culture, and that's just the language, the foods, the history, everything. It takes everything. So you have to make sure, as I can't worry about what other people do. I have to worry about for myself being an example to my daughter. She's 13, and no better example than being the example yourself. So I have to put my place out there and show everybody, listen, you know what I'm saying? I know where I'm from. I'm recognizing it. And as you get older in life and younger life, it's always great. You can always educate yourself about stuff you didn't know before. So if you have a lack of understanding, you got a smartphone, start using that phone for what it is. Stop allowing that phone to be a cell phone, putting you in a cell state of mind, whereas you can't grow. Don't allow the phone to control you. Grasp the information out there and seek it. So, I'm just playing my part, which I tell people all the time, in a bigger puzzle of this world, because, everybody's time is temporary, but make sure you have a purpose to your passion instead of your passion having no purpose. You get what I'm saying?
No, absolutely.
So for me, it's just putting all the pieces together. And actually on a real note, pay homage to the ones that put you here, because all the struggles that our grandparents and great grandparents been through to get us to you and I to talk right now, we got to salute them for that. Because if that's the case, then, we have, we failed them.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? We can't forget about everything they had to deal with compared in their lifetime to where we're right now, sitting at a little bit, easier path of life, and forget that what they did was help us to get to the point where we're moving forward now. So for me, it's just recognizing our roots, keeping the truth of it, and each one teach one in a sense of giving education where education is missing, a miseducation. You know what I'm saying? That's the main thing for me.
No, I think that it's vital that we're touching on that, because again, I knew our conversation would kind of delve into that stuff, because over time, especially now, like you said, we have so much information at the ready that if you can't find out about yourself and your history, it's legitimately a conscious choice that you're not doing it. Because like I said, between DNA, documentaries, I mean, I saw a documentary not too long ago about, the erasing of Taino culture, and, how they pretty much, they couldn't speak their own language, all of that stuff. And it just blew me away, just because I didn't even know that. And, just like anything else, I try to stay informed, keep my finger on the pulse of what's going on. And I was just like, well, damn, and certain words that even as Puerto Ricans, whether in the island or even growing up in New York, you pick up like that Taino influence that's in them. Like, I'm like, oh, I didn't know that came from that. So constantly learning. And it's like, I'm 40 years old now and I'm still learning about my own heritage, mostly because I didn't know it. And as a father myself now, my daughter's going to be 3. I want to be able that when she asks me, Dad, where do I come from? I can say, here's your story, because I think that that's one of the deepest things that so many people are missing, that you can do easily now.
Yeah, and as a parent, that's our obligation and a privilege. Like, if you can't teach them, it's like you failed your child, not giving them the information and the tools. Because then if you don't teach them, by the time they have their kids, really, are they going to be anything of what we are? Can they really say they are Puerto Rican?
Yep.
They can say they might have descended from a race, ethnicity that was Puerto Ricans, right?
Yep.
That's crazy to even think that. You know what I mean? That something that is now alive can be disappeared in a matter of years. You know what I'm saying? So at the same time, we can't allow what the system is doing to us day to day, whitewashing us out little by little. You know what I'm saying? And, you have to acknowledge where you're from. Because if not, if you don't have your culture, why would you want to adopt somebody else's culture?
100%.
You know what I'm saying? They've been doing that since the beginning of time. So you're never too late to learn. At the same time, like you just said it, you got to want to learn, man.
Yep.
So my thing is, time is of an essence. And if you don't wake up every day trying to learn something, then what did you really do for that day besides breathe?
A whole lot of taking up space.
You're just existing instead of living. And there's two big differences. You're just holding up space if you're existing. If you're not living, then, you're part of their plan that they wanted to be, and you're falling into everything that they want you to do. not what you're supposed to be doing. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. While on the subject of parents and our upbringings, I want to talk a little bit about your dad. In researching for our conversation, I saw that, the passing away of your dad really sparked you to take your creativity and the work that you were putting out there to the next level. And I want to know, just from a storytelling standpoint, what aspect of his passing, what made you go to the next level? What was it? Was it, putting your work out there for people to purchase it? Was it starting your own merchandise? What was that next chapter that you weren't able to accomplish without that spark from his passing?
I mean, during his passing, at the same time, that was when Puerto Rico was dealing with the hurricane. So there was like a multitude of things that actually avalanched me at that time.
Right.
So, dealing with having, you got the architects, as you want to call them, your mom or your dad, whoever raised you, your grandmother, your abuela, or your tios, your tias, whoever, put some type of structure in your life, right? You want to make sure that they're proud of you and what you do. You get what I'm saying?
Yep.
So, and my father going through his situation and him passing was like telling me, yo, time is of an essence, man. You have no time to be wasting. So why wait for tomorrow for what you can do today? You get what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So it gave me the moment of realization where I had to look at, like, damn, man, I wanted to show Pop certain things that I was capable of doing in a physical. Even though he's not here in the physical, I'm still able to do it on a spiritual sense, because he's always with me. He's always in my heart, my mind. Your mind is always going to live forever. The physical won't. But at the same time, while I'm here on my physical, I can still do what I can to make up for the time lost for him. You know what I'm saying? And still attribute whatever he installed into me, being Boricua, Puerto Rican. That's from dad. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So for me, it was a spiritual thing. You know what I'm saying? It was like, if I don't do it now, it's never going to happen.
No, I hear you. And to hear you share that story and just that, it brought up personal feelings for me. Just, I'm not going to go into it, but similar circumstances, same hell, different devils. And to hear that be such an inspiration for you, I said, it shows how much of an impact that, just like you said, the right support system has on taking you to that next level, whether you're doing it because it's a fire under your ass, or whether you're doing it because you want to honor the sacrifice that they made, the paying it forward, as I like to say. To hear that from you, it resonates with me heavily, because it's insane. You look at the sacrifices your parents make, and you're like, well, damn, they sacrificed so much for me. They gave me so much with less. Then why can't I do more?
And it also, too, at the end of the day, man, you have a responsibility as well. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yep.
You have to pay respect to, like I said, man, I got a lot, what I do is bigger than me. People might ask me what you mean by that. Is a lot of people that paved the way for me to be where I'm at now.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people they might not understand that, but you got to think about the lineage and the heritage and everybody you come from that did what they had to do for you to be here at the moment of what you're at in this present time. So for me, with Pops, it was just like, like, all right, cool. He might not be in the physical, but it still gives me opportunity. Plus what was going on in Puerto Rico at the time with the hurricane and everything. Like, how can I help out my people without being there? You have to think in a sense of not being selfish. So since I can't be there in the physical, right, what can I do with my abilities, my artwork? So the best time to help your own people is whatever type of art you can do, whether you're a poet, whatever artisan you are, artist, whether, if you can do anything that can help out, just to help out, you know what I mean? So I started out doing fundraisers. The fundraiser I did, the first one was in Grumpy Bird in Brooklyn. It was for Pinta por la Patria. And all the monies went to PR. It was me and a group of other people that an artist by the name of Daniel de Jesus put together. You know what I'm saying? So that was my first emergence of allowing my artwork to be put out there. Because once you put yourself out there, get ready for criticism.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
Get ready to see if what you have is really what you have. Because now if you're really about what you do, the people are going to let you know if you really are about what you do. Because without the people, you're still going to be a dope human being regardless of the fact. But if the people don't love what you do, it won't gravitate. So that beginning show showed me that pretty much every piece that I had got sold, and I donated one to the actual person who was running it, Albert, who ran Grumpy Bird at the time, still does. But all the monies went to PR. So that was fulfilling for me. So with Pop's passing, it was my way of me paying homage to him and the people of PR being in diaspora aquí in Nueva York to help them out. You get what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And, not being in PR at the time, and, is my way of saying, I'm here. I didn't forget about you. These little monies can help you out, but I know you need it more than I do right now. So that was my way in my beginnings of applying what Dad instilled to me, being, a proudful Puerto Rican, a Boricua, and now helping out the people that I come from. So that was pretty much like a combination in the beginning of everything working out. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it was a perfect storm of creativity and just really positive vibes and initiatives to really just open you up to the world. And clearly you've been killing it ever since. And I wanted to touch on that a little further because I noticed, a lot of the stuff that you're putting out, you're obviously acknowledging a lot of our roots and our heritage, but you're also acknowledging things like, the Young Lords and a lot of their messaging, and a lot of that, a lot of the stuff that was behind that organization is in influencing a lot of your work. And I wanted to ask you about that because that's one of those things that you just don't see. Like, yeah, you see a documentary here and there. Like I remember the one they dropped in '96 on PBS about them. And, I mentioned here and there in passing, but it's not something that's really front and center. And I want to ask you, what inspired you to start sharing that messaging and more about that organization and what they were doing? Because the thing about it is that group has a very broad history, because for the uninformed, the Young Lords, they formed in 1960 in Chicago initially as a gang. And then, over time that grew into something more than just quote unquote a street gang. They were a civil and human rights organization. They were always looking to self-improve and do right by Puerto Rico, Latinos, and even people that they felt were quote unquote colonized. They would go out there, whether it was through education, direct confrontation, just hardcore activism. They were really going out there and promoting that stuff. And the reason I gave people that tiny history lesson is because, like I said, so much of it is within so much of your work. So what drew you and inspired you to pull from that for a lot of your stuff?
The main thing is they were for the people. I mean, if you can't be for the people, then who are you really for then?
Yep.
I mean, the people run everything. Like, without people, what can you really do? And their message cannot be silenced and be disappeared. You know what I'm saying? So, like, even my artwork, yeah, I'm paying homage to them, but the imagery is more important than, me selling a T-shirt and stuff like that, because
100%.
it's keeping their spirit alive. And once their spirit goes, their efforts of what they were doing will disappear. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, I might do a little hat here, I might do a shirt here, but the main thing that I'm doing is keeping their spirit alive. And the spirit is, the spirit is eternal. So for me, sometimes I gravitate to certain things because that's just the spirit within me telling me to do it. You get what I'm saying? Like, it's deeper than my artwork. So what they did was pretty much, be there for the people. So for me, it's just my way of saying, thank you for what y'all did. I was a young boy at the time. I was born in 1975, so I missed it. But at the same time, they're like our modern day superheroes. We don't got no Batmans. We don't got no Superman. We don't got no Iron Mans. You know what I mean? So
right.
Where are the real superheroes at for us, right? So you need to acknowledge those people, like, without bypassing them, because if you don't acknowledge them, then you're basically saying what they did was to waste. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, you rock a long, Young Lord shirt and this, that, the third, but like, if you don't spread what they're doing, then you're not doing anything. So my sense of just bringing more awareness to them. And, for me as a person of the people, I can help out where I can help out as well. I'm going to do that, man. Like I told you before, like in a couple of minutes before, make sure you got a purpose to what you do. You know what I'm saying? Being on this existence and living this temporary life as being a human being, because we're more than human beings. We're just living this human being experience, as I say. You know what I'm saying? The people come first. And if the people come first and we all get collectively one understand that, this world would not be the way it is right now. And it all starts individually. So I have to play my part in my artwork just to not overlook that for them and keep their spirit alive in what I do. So a lot of it is like, the symbolism is very strong. Some people might not get it now, like people like yourself get it. But, in time, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, the work that I'm doing is classic. People are
Yep.
not going to understand it at this moment, but it's going to resonate to the point that, wow, because it's going to make you think about it. And once you start thinking, that's the biggest sex organ on your body is your brain.
Yep.
As I tell my ladies all the time, that's going to help you then understand and delve into things where like, wow, what can I do to help out the people and myself to make a change? And once people start doing that individually, as a collective, the whole world will start changing. But until that time comes, I only can play my part and, not forget and thank them and pay homage to them of what they did, both male and female. Because without, besides every man is a stronger woman.
That's right.
You get what I'm saying? So you can't forget that, man. So that's just my way of thanking them and, putting like a battery in my back. A lot of people say, yeah, but what do you do for the young lords? At the same time is, my artwork is what I do. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's art, people say art activism. I'm just doing what I do because my spirit guides me in that sense. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes I don't have all the answers, but I know what I'm doing I'm doing it from the heart, from the corazón. And from there, I just go forward with it. You know what I mean?
What you're doing, and it's interesting that you frame it that way, is you're also creating conversation, because if somebody goes and buys a Young Lord shirt and they're wearing it and they're walking someplace and people be like, Young Lords, what's that? A person who did the research, did the homework before buying the shirt is going to take that 3 minutes to school somebody on what they were about, who they were, etc. Or it might be somebody from that generation that's walking down the street that might see that, and give you the head nod of respect, and feel a sense of, that you might make that person's day by just acknowledging, especially if they were part of that struggle during that era. For them to see that through your artwork, through the stuff that you're putting out, you're creating conversations that most people wouldn't be having.
I know most of my work is conversational pieces. I would say in the high 99% of it, you know what I mean? Like my work has to make you think. If it don't make you think, then what are you doing? I mean, yeah, it's artwork, at the same time, you know what I'm saying? But, you have a power in what you do. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, once again, it's your purpose in what you do. Don't waste your purpose. You know what I'm saying? Your time is very, very limited. You have a certain amount of heartbeats on this planet. You know what I'm saying? You have to use each of those heartbeats to its fullest potential. Like most people won't gravitate to what I just said, but at the same time, the most that do understand what I'm saying are using their gift and abilities and putting the work ethic behind it, and actually pushing that forward. So a lot of my work is conversational pieces, man. And like you said, you get the head nod from people, you start talking. So it's like I said, man, it's keeping the spirit alive. As long as the spirit's alive, their movement and what they did for the people will never die. You know what I'm saying? And I'm just playing my part on a long gate, and I'm just a little fence. My part of the chain link on a bigger gate and bigger fence. You know what I'm saying? That's all I'm doing. You know what I mean? I only can do what I can do. That's it. You know what I mean?
I wanna touch a little bit on the business side of things, because we got people that are on entrepreneurial journeys. I want to talk about when your first sale, when you launched your shop and you got your first sale. What was that like? What did you feel when that first sale went through? Tell me about that day.
I mean, that shit was amazing, B. I mean, that's great. When, I could say it as real as that, man. That shit was amazing. It's nothing more gratifying. And I'll break it down in a sense beyond that. It's nothing more gratifying when people can appreciate what you do and it makes them smile, and your work goes to a home that they appreciate what you do. You get what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Anybody that can, for me personally, I don't care how much you spend on my site. You could spend $5. You could spend 20, 100,000. It don't make a difference. You know what I mean? You could have took that money and went somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? You could have bought your kids food. You could have bought your kids presents. You could have bought clothes. You could have bought the light in the house. You know what I'm saying? So for me, it was very gratifying because that person took their hard-earned money and spent it on me. And that was really dope. That's priceless, man. I have that dollar bill in a frame. You know what I'm saying? Part of the monies that was actually paid to my first order. So, man, it's unbelievable when people can believe in what you do and they actually are willing to support you. support is key, man. Like if you know the people don't support you, how far are you gonna go? You ain't gonna go that far, to be honest. You're gonna be local, and that's cool. But my voice and what I'm trying to do and what I am doing, it's worldwide. There is no limitation to where I'm going with what I'm doing, because no matter what country, no matter what continent you are, we as a people have to fight against the struggle. You know what I mean? So, and what I do is bring recognition to that and bring people's awareness to see that. You know what I'm saying? And, you know, you got to give power to those who are powerless and to give voice to those who are voiceless at the same time, and never forget that. So that moment was amazing, because, you know, it showed me what I'm doing is right and people support it. So once the people support you, you know, there's no point of stopping. You just keep pushing yourself, más pa'lante. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Now, I want to talk a little bit about your creative process and how you go about choosing your designs. Do you, how's that creative process? Do you doodle a lot and kind of get a couple of different ideas together? And I ask this because, you know, going through, I see so many things that are either a part of my childhood, a fabric of who I am within your artwork, like seeing Gordon Liu. You know, like that takes me back to Sundays watching karate movies on Channel 5. You know, 18 Bronze Men is still in VHS somewhere in my garage. So, you know, seeing Charlie Brown, seeing Yasuke and the Wu-Tang stuff. So there's so many awesome things there and so many different pieces of nostalgia. What's your thought process when you're going through picking some of that stuff?
I mean, you know, inspiration can come from anything and anywhere. You know what I'm saying? So being a child from 1975, you know, the cartoons, the movies, the series, the shows, people, nature, you know what I'm saying? Being in love with fantasy, sci-fi, Star Wars fan. I'm a big Bruce Lee fan. You know what I'm saying? Sports too. So, you know, a lot of it is just my childhood, man. You know, never lose that child spirit. You know what I'm saying? I'll be honest, man. So everything you see that I do is just parts of my childhood. Now I'm able to bring it to life. You know what I mean? So some of the pieces you've seen, the Wu Yasuke, the Shaolin versus Wu-Tang, those were collaborations that I did with people that, you know, I give people the opportunity in a sense, whereas let's build together.
Right.
So if you got an idea, you want to build with me, we'll chop it up and I'll bring your idea to fruition. You know what I'm saying? So most of my inspiration be like, yeah, I can sketch sometimes and doodle shit, but sometimes it'd be just off the head. You know what I mean? I'll just take, and, you know, and I don't like canvases. You know what I'm saying? I like taking repurpose pieces of material. There's some pieces that I use an old mesa for mi abuela in the house, and I did a piece of artwork on it. There are plaques that that I had lying around that my uncle had. He was about to throw away. I ripped off all of the medallions, repainted it, and did a piece out of it. So most of the pieces, if you check the website, some of those, I'll break it down to you. They might be pieces of furniture. So it just adds more the organic, it brings more life to it that way, because there's a story to tell.
Right.
Make sure when you're doing life, there's a story behind it, because it makes that piece more special. You understand what I'm saying? Like,
yep.
So the Gordon Liu piece, the Shaolin versus Wu-Tang, the dude that bought it he's from our era too. He loves martial arts. So to connect with somebody that loves what we love, Channel 5 and Channel 11 back in the days, Godzilla, martial art flicks, and do something like that for somebody who enjoys it as much as you, yo, man, it's priceless, man. I mean, no amount of money can pay for it. You know what I'm saying? Because that person appreciates what you appreciate. You get what I'm saying?
Yep.
It's not like they're not art mongers or hoarders. You know what I'm saying? They appreciate what you do because they can understand you. You know, so my inspiration can even come from this conversation that we're having right now. You know what I'm saying? That's how spontaneous the mind is. So, you know, it can be just walking in the neighborhood, you know what I mean? Just hearing a sound, people. I go to a place to eat with my lady. It might be the food we eating, chill with my daughter, have a conversation. So the inspiration is as far as you want to take it. But most of it is because of my childhood, man. Never lose that child essence, because if you lose it, you're done. You know what I'm saying? So for me, what keeps me forever young is my childhood, and that's my inspiration. Now, living that kid's dream and actually living it.
I love that. You know, it's funny. My daughter and I bought a replica 84 Voltron, and she got into it, and she helped me build it. She knew, like, the first way that she learned colors was learning the colors of the lions. And, you know, I took like little videos and stuff, and people were like, oh, that's crazy. But exactly that, like being a kid at heart and being able to pass that on and taking that messaging and gift wrapping it for somebody. Because again, people are fleeting, but the way you make them feel is not. So like you said, you gave that person that Gordon Liu piece. You may never talk to that person ever again. But if somebody walks in their house and they see that piece, they'll be like, man, I got it from this guy, man. He appreciated this stuff, like just like I did. And they'll have a story. There'll be some passion behind it. And that interaction, that transfer of energy will live on, which I like, man. And I respect that that's how you approach it.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It's priceless, man. It's like, when the people appreciate what you do, man, no amount of money can matter up to what I do. You know what I'm saying? So when you meet people that appreciate your art for the art that you do because they can understand it and they've been there before, and you're basically bringing out gems and memories, a part of their pastime, and the nostalgia is still there. And that's part of them, being who they are still, but they might have forgot about it. You know what I'm saying? Because, you got jobs, you're married, you got kids, you have a wife, you have a husband. So a lot of things in his day-to-day life kind of make you suppress what you used to love. You know what I'm saying? So for me, I like to bring out that if I could work with somebody, those memories, because that's what's going to keep you young, man.
Absolutely.
People say to me, what keeps me young? I'm like, I do what I love. I love what I do at the end of the day. And that's going to keep me young forever in mind, heart, and soul. You know what I'm saying? So once you keep those things, and matter of fact, the gentleman who does have that Shaolin versus Wu-Tang piece, he owns 3 of my pieces like that. He owns the Wu Yasuke one. He owns the 36 Chambers Peanuts one. And he owns the Wu Yasuke Charlie Brown one, and actually the Gordon Liu one, Shaolin versus Wu-Tang. So he's in the process of actually building his first El Museo de Bobbito.
Oh, man.
So he has, if you look at the video on my page, that's his house with those pieces. That's not me. That's him. You know what I'm saying? I don't own any of I have no artwork of mine. My thing is, once I do it, it has to go.
Yep.
Because it's not me. And I don't want to be selfish. I'd rather give what I have, a part of me, because each piece that I've given to somebody or I've done for somebody or a person has bought is a part of me. So you're taking home a part of me, the artist. You know what I'm saying? And then it's like saying, yo, I might not know him, but I have a part of him with me. And then there's a story to tell because you're taking that home and you appreciate it the same way I appreciate it. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So, man, to your question initially, it's priceless, B. It's priceless, man.
I want the one thing I liked that you recently did, you're doing a Instagram story. You're going to the post office to mail out orders. You're never too big to still get your hands dirty. and I respect that. And I kind of want to go through that process of, merchandise order fulfillment. Are you sitting there and legitimately hand packing every order, on a Friday night, going to that post office on a Saturday, really just embracing that grind from soup to nuts because you know that it's going to be the best it's going to be because it's coming from you?
Yeah. I mean, 90% of everything that's sent out is through me. I do work with drop shipping companies that actually facilitate maybe a t-shirt of mine or a sweater, but any of the art pieces that anybody has bought has come from me. Some of the pins, because I used to do everything myself, but it's a lot easier now where I can actually get some of the hats done. So it might come from a manufacturer that I work with, a couple of manufacturers actually. But at the same time, yeah, I'm that dude I work the shipping department. I am customer service. I am jack of all trades, because at the end of the day, right, you got to know your business from the ins and the outs. So when you do get to the point of where people call me, you blow up, you know how it was to start on the bottom. Because you worked every part of it. You know what I'm saying? So how can you fall if you never fell before? You get what I'm saying? So I've worked every part and I still do it. So me showing people, me going to the post office, there's been many runs that I went to the post office, but that's my connection with the people to let them know that, I'm a human being myself, just like y'all out there. And, I do got to wait on the line. I do got to deal with the COVID. You know what I mean? I do take my time because, my work is personal. For you to actually take time to, purchase my work or even look at my website or even interact with me the same way we're doing now, I appreciate that, man. It's beyond words because, without the people, where would you be? So, yeah, to your question initially, yeah, I'm the one that ships it out. So if you get a handwriting from me, that's me. You know what I'm saying? Or sometimes it's been my daughter. that I try to implement. I teach her what it's called nepotism. You know what I'm saying? Keep the business within the family. Nepotism is a good word. It's not a bad word. A lot of people need to look that up. It's built within your own. You know what I'm saying? And pass down the knowledge of actually, what's called generational wealth. So what I'm doing now is pretty much building a generational wealth for my daughter and her family. You know what I'm saying? So she can have some type of stability that she can stand on, because we grew up, our parents might not, they might have done the best they could for us, made sure we have food, clothing, and shelter, which is priceless, but they might not drop all the other jewels. You get what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So we as parents now have to pick up the ball or the baton in the race of this life, what we want to call a race, and continue to go forward with that. So, it's a dope feeling, man. Like, so at the end of the day, yeah, man, if you get anything handwritten from me, it's from me. You know what I'm saying? I might not have everything here, but I have some stuff in another place, but that's somebody I know personally, like family, that's doing it as well. So anything handwritten, you are getting it from me. You know what I'm saying? So, I try to do everything I can do, but at the same time, as the business grows, you have to grow too. That's a lot of people mess up. They start making their business to get more money, but they got to increase their sales now, and beyond increasing your sales, increase how your productivity goes as well.
Yep.
As my productivity goes, my material will get better and better and better and better at the same time. So what I did last year ain't going to be the same this year or the next year, so on and so forth. But yeah, man, like I told you earlier, I work the shipping department. I'm all about customer service, man. I'm known for calling people.
Yep.
So if you have an issue from me, you would get an email from me. 9 times out of 10, I'm calling you myself. And I have called many of, customers to explain situations, resolve situations, because at the end of the day, I'm a customer myself. If you have no customer service skills in your business, you don't really have a good business.
Hell no.
You don't. At the end of the day, yeah, you don't have a problem taking people's money, but when it comes down to you speaking to the people, helping them out, responding to an order, giving them information, then what are you really doing? Then you're all about greed. You're not about the people. You get what
Absolutely.
I'm saying? So I take my time, and call people, literally call people that, they leave their number on my website. And if you have an issue, you hit me up on my DM or my email. I'm calling you back 9 times out of 10. So anybody ever hears this, and if they ever have gotten a call from me, they can vouch for that. I've gotten call people all the time. You know what I'm saying? So that's the key thing about it. Never be too high above your bridges to handle every part of your business, because that's going to make you the best business person possible. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. I wanna touch on one other thing before we move into the next segment. You mentioned in an interview in a piece you did about how being a night owl and working in solitude gets you in the zone. It fuels a lot of your creativity. And I kind of want to tie that into what you just said before about dealing with your business and COVID and everything else. Last year was really, really crazy, and it led to more solitude than usual for many of us. How did that impact you creatively over the last year?
I mean, I've been in solitude prior to COVID. So it ain't really affected at all, man. I mean, as you grow older in life, you cut out a lot of toxicity from yourself, from your, from whether it's family, whether it's friends, whether it's the food you eat, whether what you listen to, So, I mean, it didn't really affect me at all, because I've been that way, as it is, It might have affected a lot of people, because they're not used to it.
Right.
But as I gotten older in my life, I kept myself to a certain, regimen, and what it did for me more, it made me focus more, and not focus more, but how to transition. Maybe because a lot of times when COVID first came out, a lot of the places that I might have had garments made were shutting down or down manpower because of COVID. So I had to think about it strategically. All right, so if option A is closed, what can I do? B, C, D, E, F, G. You know what I'm saying? I had to think about options as a business owner. But when it came to creativity, nah, man, I was good. I'm always a person. I'm social, but I'm antisocial at the same time, because I love people, but sometimes I do love me some peace of mind. You get what I'm saying? So it didn't affect me in that sense, but it made me, as a business owner, have multiple plays like options, audibles, as football players know. You got to have audibles. So if the linebacker is trying to sack the quarterback, you know what I mean? What are you going to do next to actually run a different option? You've seen the linebackers coming in, so you got to change up real quick. same thing as that. Or a batter's coming to the plate, and you're a pitcher. You know that batter's going to hit certain pitches. What are you going to do to not get this batter on? You know what I'm saying? How are you going to strike them out, or how are you going to walk them? Same thing with even basketball. How are you going to play a different defense when the offense is a certain way?
Yep.
So it just taught me different ways of actually changing and having options. But as sense of creativity, man, it just pushed me, man. Like I always told people, and I tell people now, if you didn't learn something through this COVID, meaning start a new business or try to start a business or learn something, learn a language, learn how to cook something, learn how to read a book, or go back to reading books you used to read before reading became something that's not the norm no more. Then what did you really do with this COVID? Like, you learn how to wash your hands?
I tell people that COVID exposed a lot of inefficiencies because, people were like, oh, you can't work from home. A lot of jobs, you can't work from home. Well, I guess everybody got to work from home. Oh, your kids can't learn remote. Oh, I guess kids got to learn. Like, there were a lot of things that people lived and died on that they couldn't do, and they had to find a way to do them. So I respect the fact that you, as an entrepreneur, had to really revisit and strategize instead of just blaming COVID for the problems, because that's the easy way out. Like, I can't get these sweatshirts. You're like, all right, well, I can't get this vendor. Well, who's my other vendor in the rotation?
Listen, it's 2021. You can't blame nobody but yourself, man.
There you go.
We live in a world that there's constant shit that's going to happen every day. We do not control that. Control what you can control, and what you can control is the decisions and the choices you make. You know what I'm saying? So you can't be blind and oblivious to think everything is going to be rolling smoothly. It's not going to happen unless you just born today. And if you're just born today, I got to excuse you for that because you don't know. You know what I'm saying? But if you've been living here for the past years and thinking that this life is going to be sweet, I don't mean to pop your bubble, but I'm going to pop it so you can really see what's going on. You know what I'm saying? So you have to, prior to COVID, know that there's always has to be issues in this world. Listen, you have to have a duality. There's going to be good. There's going to be bad. There's going to be up. There's going to be down. You can't have in without out. You know what I'm saying? So knowing that and having that knowledge, when situations or obstacles is thrown at you at hand, how can you do better? Don't blame. Have a resolution. Have a plan of a strategy, attack, and go ahead and attack it. Complaining is not, like I learned from my lady, complaining won't get you nowhere.
Nope.
That's time that's going to actually impede you. You get what I'm saying? So put that effort and go forward instead of thinking about stuff that doesn't even make any sense. You know what I'm saying?
That is a great way to close things out. Our next segment is the hot seat. It's a series of rapid fire questions, can tie into business, some of the personal stuff we talk to, all the stuff we're fans of. And I want to start, being growing up, born in the 70s, forged in the 80s. I got to ask, what was one of your favorite cartoons of that era?
I mean, one of my favorite cartoons was like Tom and Jerry, like the old school ones. You know what I'm saying? Like, if people think cartoons were violent now, back in the day.
Oh, man.
And I wasn't going outside hitting people in the heads with hammers and stuff like that. It's a cartoon. You know what I'm saying? But had Transformers.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? G.I. Joe. You know what I'm saying? So like those are key ones for me growing up, man. And there's a lot of other ones. He-Man. There was so many, like the cartoons back in and this is before animation. I'm talking about, 3D, like anime. But, it was those cartoons, man. You had Heckle and Jekyll. You had Mighty Mouse.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? You had Scooby-Doo. I mean, there was so many that, impacted me growing up. So, but those in particular, actually, you had Voltron. You know what I'm saying? Like, there was just so many, the Snorks. You know what I'm saying? Like,
nice.
There's so many, man. Like as a kid, Space Ghost was like, that was a key one. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it was just the artwork, and X-Men, another one too. So it was just growing up. There was so much influences coming in that you couldn't stop, you know what I mean? But as like early was like Tom and Jerry. That was like classic. There's like a classic one where they're skating in the kitchen and they freeze the kitchen and you open up the refrigerator and they're skating all around. As a kid, you're looking at that like, damn, that's crazy, but it looks like fun. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So, Looney Tunes was another one, so a lot of it, was mainly those that helped me out as a kid growing up, but, mainly those, you know what I'm saying?
What do you feel is a cartoon from that era that is underrated, that's criminally underrated, that people sleep on?
Criminally underrated. I mean, for me, like Transformers was criminally underrated. Like I remember going seeing Transformers in the movies.
That's
You
what's
know what I'm
up.
saying? When it first came out, it was something where like if you grew up in that era, man, you understood that, man. I had Decepticons and Transformers as well. Like not only just having seen the movie, but then getting the toys,
Yep.
and the toys was just brought you back in time because you got to put them together. You get
Yep.
what I'm saying? Like it was, but overrated. Like I mean, it's hard to say overrated because like if you're from that time,
No, underrated, underrated. Like people like didn't give it enough credit.
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, Transformers for me. You know, what I mean, at that time, it's just something. It impacted me, so a lot of people might not get it growing up as a kid. So but for me, that was one.
Hell yeah, I get it, man. I didn't when the Cartoon Network first dropped is when I learned about Space Ghost, and I always felt Space Ghost was super underrated, and Birdman and the Herculoids.
Caveman. You know what I'm saying? There's so many that that passes my mind, but there's a lot, B. There's a lot. But all of that had an influence in the person you're talking to right now. You know what I'm saying?
What are 3 mobile apps you can't live without?
Oh, 3 mobile apps I can't live without. Gotta have my Instagram. You know what I'm saying? That's the key to my business right there. You know what I'm saying? Damn, 3 mobile apps. Instagram. My Snapchat, because I talk to my daughter back and forth with that one. You know what I mean?
Nice.
And my Navy Federal, check my bank account, B. You know what I'm saying? To make sure these transitions good, but Instagram is my main one because that's where I conversate and talk to the people, you know what I'm saying? And that's where I help move and maneuver my business. You know what I'm saying? So, I'm not there going through the feeds. I'm there helping, myself talk to people, whether it's looking at previous orders or talking to people about orders they might want to get for the future, and actually just marketing myself in my business. Instagram is like my number one marketing and branding tool. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, Instagram is key for me.
I know you mentioned that you weren't big into canvas and were big into repurposing art. What are some of the artistic tools in your arsenal? Do you draw? Are you a pencil drawer? Do you like work with inks?
I mean, I started my first artwork as a kid with the big pens. Big pens was my thing. You know what I mean? I'll show you. You have a video, so I'll show you real quick.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like these big pens.
Yep.
Those are jewels. And I mean, anything. I mean, I use as a graph writer, spray paint. You know what I'm saying? Pencils. Acrylics. There's really no medium that I can't use and won't use. It all depends on what the artwork feels for. You get what I'm saying? So each artwork talks to me a certain way. So when it talks to me, that's what I use for that particular art piece. You know what I'm saying? So never be scared about an art piece and the mediums you might use. I mean, you can use coffee grounds as color. You know what I'm saying? You can use anything pretty much. You can use makeup. It all depends on your creativity and what you can do with things that people don't think you can do something with. You know what I'm saying? So pencil, pen, markers, spray paint. You know what I'm saying? There's no limit, man. It's the basic stuff and other things outside the box as well.
You mentioned how you were involved in the music industry and how music is a part of your DNA. When you're working, what's playing in the background?
Nothing.
Really?
It's like sometimes there's no music at all. Like I'm straight in the zone. I don't need nothing. You know what I mean? Like music for me is personal. I'll be really. Music for me is sometimes taking a walk to go visit my pops in the cemetery. You get what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
That's my journey. That's my background music. Go see pops. You know what I'm saying? So I can be in the house doing the work for 4 hours straight. No music is on.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? So sometimes, I love music. A lot of things people don't know. I'm an MC myself. I produce as well. You know what I'm saying? So not that many people know that. So for me to listen to music, sometimes I have to really dig what I'm listening to listen to it. You get what I'm saying? So, like if I am listening to stuff, I try to support a lot of artists now. I'll support like a UFO Feeve or Key Bihoti, you know what I'm saying? Or Ralphie Bakes, you know what I'm saying? Or Red Inf, you know what I'm saying? Or, The Leftovers, they got an album out now, Engraved in New York. So I try to support people that are doing what they're doing now. So, I'm a classic Wu-Tang fan and, that's my, I grew up on them. So straight, a lot of Wu stuff, Gravediggers. But when I'm doing my artwork, you were surprised. I have nothing on sometimes. It'll be plain silence because that pretty much keeps me in a train of thought and focus in my artwork, man. And I really sometimes don't have anything on, man. It's just me. I'm in a zone. I need to focus on that, and that's it, really. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of people will be probably shocked by hearing that, but I don't have anything on. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm just caught up in the zone, and that's really it. You know what I'm saying?
What was the last book you read?
The last book, I'm actually reading a book right now. I'll show you the book I'm reading. It's called Knowledge of Self.
Okay.
It's a collection of wisdom and science. So I'm currently reading this. You know what I'm saying? So anybody, check out this publication. You know what I'm saying?
Yep, I'll link to it.
You know what I'm saying? Supreme Design Publishing. You can check them on Instagram. So I'm actually reading that as well right now. So it talks about life, culture, you know what I mean? Things that people should know about, but we get caught up in the mysticism of people thinking they know everything. And when you think you know everything, you don't know anything.
100%.
So, most jewels are kept in books. So that's actually one of the books I'm reading right now. You know what I'm saying?
What was something you purchased recently that was less than $100 that made either your life easier or more enjoyable?
This shirt that I got on right now. Yeah,
that shirt is bananas.
Very dope. Because it brings me back to home, you know what I'm saying? And little pieces like that, remind me of Pops, you know what I'm saying? And our people, you know what I mean? Don't be, a lot of people represent where you're from, man. You know 100%. What I'm saying? Being in tune with your culture does not mean you discredit anybody else's. You know what I'm saying? Appreciate who you're from and where you're from. You know what I'm saying? Pay your ancestors proud of what they did and make you who you are and where you're at right now. So, I'll never stop doing and being pro Boricua because that's who we are. You know what I'm saying? And but this is one of the pieces recent. It's a little token and trinket for myself. And sometimes you just got to do little things for yourself to make yourself feel good. And that's really it. You know what I'm saying? I'm a very simplistic man at the end of the day, but little things like that, little camiseta to wear outside, and I feel good. I'm good. You know what I'm saying? That's it.
What's a non-negotiable for you when it comes to business?
I can't deal with liars, man.
All right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, once the line goes about or somebody's fraudulent, I can't work with you. Because at the end of the day, it's like, when are you not going to lie to me about something? You get what I'm saying? So rather me even intertwine myself with you, I won't do anything with you. There's no problem in that. You have to be yourself, man. And for me, that's the real thing. Be yourself, but don't lie, because that's not going to get you nowhere with me. I'm not going to work with you. I don't care who you know, how much money you got. It don't make a difference, because we all bleed and got to go to the same earth and eventually sometime. So we ain't that much different.
Nope. You know what I'm saying? I tell people all the time, the 3 B's, if we bleed, breed, and breathe the same, then you're no better than me.
Lying is something that I don't tolerate. So just be honest with me and we can be good, and, don't let your ego get in the way. Once your ego gets into the way, then that causes a lot of problems and stuff. So for me, just be truthful, and, that's going to resonate good with me, man. That's the main thing, and I'm real cool with everybody after that without an issue. You know what I'm saying?
We talk business, we talk toys, got to definitely talk a little tech. We talk tech, we got to definitely talk a little toys. What is your favorite toy from your childhood?
My favorite toy was when I got Devastator.
Nice.
Days, like my parents, growing up, you learn certain traditions, and you learn that, Santa Claus is not the one dropping stuff under the tree. You know what I'm saying? It's mommy and papi.
Yep.
So mommy and papi took me to TSS that used to be, as a matter of fact, they took me to Alexander's.
Yep.
That used to be in Queens Boulevard, right? And we're doing shopping for the family, and mom and dad was like, yo, pick out your Christmas present. I was like, word. So at that time, Transformers was the shit and still is. Devastator came in a set box, with each of them. I grabbed that. I'm like, well, I don't want one toy. I'm gonna buy one toy that's gonna have about 6, 7 toys all together. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, five pieces, I believe. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces all together, and I got 5 pieces for one. You know what I'm saying? Go. So for me, that was the first time that I actually got to pick a toy. And, it meant a lot because, I knew that other part of learning was not true no more. And for me, it was something that my parents gave me the opportunity. And I cherished it for a hot minute. And then I gave it to my godson. And from there, he destroyed it. You know what I'm saying? But I kept it for a minute. And that was one of the dopest toys I had as a kid. That was really dope.
That's awesome. To wrap up the hot seat, I call you a year from now. Bobbito, how's business? What do you hope to tell me?
It's still kicking, man. It's actually reached more people. I'm able to help more people. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, you know, I'm all about helping the people. So if I can hire people that are aspiring just like myself, whether it's an artist or anybody else that's trying to get into the game, and they want to learn the ins and outs of the business, I'm willing to work with them, you know what I'm saying, and collaborate with them. And with my business, venture off into other businesses where I can help other people out, to be honest, man. It's all about being benevolent in what you have, man. At the end of the day, you can't take none of this shit when you die.
Nope.
So, you know, might as well help out as much people you can, because I can't fit this in my coffin. It ain't going nowhere.
There you
so
go.
At the end of the day, is, you know, be able to say I've helped more people and aspire to inspire is my key thing. You know what I'm saying? You got to inspire people. So to know that I can say, hey, my business inspired 5 other people to start their own business, that's priceless, yo.
Absolutely. So to wrap things up, we got reach one, teach one, just a piece of actionable advice we like to give to our listeners. Just one last parting shot. So everybody gets framed up a little differently. I want to use our conversation and our experiences. It's just a great way to put this question together. You get invited to speak to a graduating class of high school students in Puerto Rico. What piece of advice would you give them as they go out into the world?
Do what you love what you do, stay focused, and siempre pa'lante como el elefante.
That's it. That, my friend, is an outstanding quote and way to wrap up our conversation. Bobbito, thank you so much for taking the time to share the toys and tech of your trade. Before we wrap up, where can people find you, pick up your work, and catch up with you?
You can find me on the website at www.bobbitoross.com or hit me up on Instagram at bobbitoross, BOBBITOROSS. Or you can email me, but most of the time you can catch me on my DM and on the actual website itself. You know what I'm saying?
Awesome. Bobbito, thank you so much for taking the time to chop it up with us and once again share the toys and tech of your trade.
I appreciate you, brother. Enjoy your night. Have a blessed one with my family. Yours. Be safe out there, all right?
What a dope conversation with Bobbito. I'm glad I got to really sit down and share his story with you guys. As a creator myself, as someone who has Puerto Rican heritage, ancestry, and everything else, there were elements of that conversation that I'm really glad we got to explore. Like I said in the beginning of this podcast, there were some departures from our usual conversations, but they're conversations that I feel need to be had, especially on platforms like this, when there's still a lot of underrepresentation of various cultures across the medium. It is true. And we need to have more of that and see more of that. We need to fire up and inspire people with our stories, our voices, and everything in between. And I'm really glad that Bobbito got to sit down and share his story with you. I truly hope that you gained not only knowledge, but inspiration for your journeys, your endeavors. And if you're a person who feels that they are underrepresented, go out there and do something to really bring your culture forward. Give your culture a voice, whether it's through something like this, like a podcast, or another form of artistic expression. Do that, because again, we're not just laying the groundwork for ourselves, but also for future generations as well. And I'm really, really glad, like I said, to have that kind of conversation on this week's episode. Make sure to check out Bobbito on Instagram and also on his website. We'll include links for that in the show notes for this episode, along with some of the other items that we discussed. As always, full disclosure, certain items will contain affiliate links, which if you click, they will allow us to receive a small commission at no additional cost to you, which of course goes towards creating just a better experience for you and the rest of the Rageworks family, whether it's through consumption of our written content, our audio content, or our video content. So with that, we're going to wrap up this week's episode of Toys and Tech of the Trade. Thank you as always for your continued support, and I will see you guys in 2 weeks. Peace. Toys and Tech of the Trade is part of the Rageworks Podcast Network, your source for rants about gaming, entertainment, and the works. Visit us at RageworksNetwork.com.